let's continue on. And remember, we're talking about CSS. So this is more about that. It says using viewport units. Viewport units, a relative unit used to express length as a percentage if the width and height of the browser window. You see this not only in CSS, but you see it in just regular HTML too. You can specify the width of your window is going to be 500. So you're hard coding that in. Well, what happens when you got a window that doesn't have 500? So instead of saying it's going to be 500, maybe you say it's going to be 80%. So especially if you got a table that's in the middle here is going to be 50% of your screen, and each of these sides is going to be 25% of your screen. Then it doesn't matter what device you're on, as you resize it, it looks okay. Won't look great. You'll never have great, I think, when you're trying to develop a screen for every possibility, no matter how big or how small. When I first started using HTML as a webmaster, one of the things that they hated on our website is the person was using a background, and on the background they had the color coming down here, and then they had the color going over on the top. But it was an image, and it went over so far. So somebody with a big monitor, big screen, what it did is it repeated that background image over here. It looked horrible if you had a large monitor. Person didn't know what they were doing HTML wise. Let's see, is there anything exciting here? This just talks about the 4 viewport units that they introduced. 1 VW, 1% of the browser window width, 1 VH, 1% of the browser height, 1 VH, 1 VMin is 1 VW or 1 VH, whichever is smaller, and 1 VMax is the larger of those. Now, sizing keywords. Font sizes are expressed using the following keywords. You got your XX small dash small, X small, small, medium, large, extra large, 2X, larger and smaller. Is that set in stone what it's going to look like? No, and that's the idea behind the sizing is we're not saying it's going to be 20 in terms of our font. We're just saying it's going to be big. And then whether you're looking at it on your phone or whether you're looking on a huge monitor, it should look decent or okay. Kerning measures the amount of space between characters, while tracking measures the amount of space between words. Properties that control elements kerning and tracking are by letter dash spacing and word dash spacing with appropriate value. I never have done very much with kerning, if I'm saying that correctly. I suppose if your text was so close together on a phone where it's really hard to read, you could have some kind of condition there. If you're going to that particular browser or whatever, then you can put spaces between it. Every browser has its own unique identification. So when you go to somebody's website, they can see what browser you're using. It used to be confusing because some of the browsers used false names. It was kind of strange because you couldn't see which ones were Microsoft or Netscape or some of the other ones. I haven't heard about that recently though, so I don't think any of the newer versions are doing that. By the way, there's a reason for that. That's not useless trivia. But if you know that information, then you can plan your website accordingly. If, for example, for computer science majors, when I looked at the statistics and where everybody went, and this has been a few years back, where do you think most people went in Kansas? Wichita State. They went to Wichita State. A big reason that is a lot of the online students are in Wichita. A lot of you are from this local area, so instead of going too far away, people go to Wichita State. So if 85% of our students are going up to Wichita State, what would be better to plan our program around? Wichita State. Yeah, we don't want to plan it around 2%, 3% going to Pittsburgh State. Now, don't get me wrong, I went to Pittsburgh State. I love it. It was a fantastic college. But again, that's why it's important to understand what your users are using when they come to your website, and even what country they're from, so you can then plan that accordingly. Have you ever go to a website in another country? Yeah. Was it fast? Yes, so wasn't it? Depending upon the country, like if you went to something UK is probably rather quick to come back. If you went to a website that was located in some real obscure country that didn't have the backbone structure and so forth, it came back super slow. and yeah, so when you're planning that, if 80% of my and I'm gonna pick on Jamaica for example. If 80% of my visitors are coming from Jamaica, and I know they're going to experience that really slow, then maybe where should I host at? In Jamaica, yeah. So it's not useless trivia when you're studying your traffic and so forth for the internet. Let's see. Leading, measure the amount of space between lines of text spacing can be controlled. So if you want your line height, you can control it there. Text indent, you can control that there. The idea here is just for you to get an overview. Majority of this class is to learn basic programming concepts. Are you going to do this by hand? Probably not. But understand the concept of it, then if you need to go and modify it by hand, you understand what in the world it's doing. If you need to go and look to see what settings are being done on a web page, you really like what that looks like, you can go out there and you can look at the HTML or the CSS file, and you can see what's going on. So then you could pick the appropriate tool in your GUI, because you're probably going to use Dreamweaver or some really nice package to do your website. We used to offer that class, a Dreamweaver. I'm not even sure if that's the most popular one now. We used to have a web design degree here at Cali. You could get a degree in web design, and now I think they only offer a couple of basic classes in it. Web design isn't a bad thing to go into, but it's not one of the more higher paid computer science degrees. It's probably at the low end. So we used to offer, believe it or not, a help desk degree in computer science here at Cali. That's a help desk. What do you think that kind of job is like? Boring, horrible. Yeah, dealing with the worst users. You don't got the real intelligent users calling you up typically. It's the ones that have no clue what they're doing. That their monitor's off and they think their computer's broke. And it's just like, well, push the button on your monitor, and they're reaching down there, pushing their CPU. It's like, oh, it's I think it's restarting. It's like, no, I said your monitor. Well, what's a monitor? It's just like, you're killing me. I've dealt with some users like that. At IFR, when you work at a small company, you have to wear many different hats, and part of our duties were to serve on the help desk once a week. Okay, and you see here an example. You got your H1, H2. Remember, you tell it the element here. You do a beginning brace, closing brace, and then your letter spacing, for example, and then your 0.1 EM. And that refers to that code we talked about earlier. Or down here, the line height. Now, if you remember, you can put your style sheets up at the top, can't you? So, at the end of today, we're going to leave some time at the end. I'm going to have you design 2 web pages using CSS. And that'll be part of it. Is I'll ask you to control certain elements. Okay, working with font styles. To specify the font style, use the font dash style, and you got your type. You got normal, italics, or oblique. I'm trying to remember what oblique is. To change the weight of the font, use font weight and then your weight. And this is the level of bold that applies. So if you want to bold it, you can do this. But it's even more than just the little flexibility that HTML gives you. HTML by itself, you can do the B. So you got less than B, greater than, and then you end it with the slash B, and that'll bold whatever's inside. But there's no degree of boldness. And that's what this gives you. You can put different values in there. We got our text decoration. You got your type. Type is none, underline, overline, or line through. To transform text, you got your text transform. You capitalize, you got uppercase, lowercase, or none. I don't think I've ever seen none. Oh, I know why you'd use it. Why would you use none? Because by default, if you leave it off, that means none, right? Remember, we had different levels you could specify. I showed you an example where you could put the style sheet for the entire web page, the entire HTML document, and then you could override it with within a particular element. So if up here you're saying that everything's going to be bold, for example, then down here for this one H1 tag, you can say none, and it won't bold it. So there's no, or not bold, but capitalize. So you can say capitalize up here, and then for this one, you can say none for no capitalization. To specify a font variant of text, use font dash variant on type, where you got normal or small caps. To align text horizontally and vertically, and I sometimes have limited luck with this. Getting my alignment to look like what I want. I always have to play with it. I'll change it, and then I'll put left, right, center, justify, and keep changing it until it looks like what I want. Because oftentimes, when you're trying to align things horizontally or vertically, maybe there's an image next to it. And so where you think your text should be doesn't line up with like the image. So. And here's more information on that. The values of the vertical line is baseline, line to the baseline, bottom, middle, subscripts element, superscripts element, text bottom, text top. I use sub and super when I was doing some of the formatting for that those courses I told you. They were computer science courses. They were they called MicroMasters. They're an edX, where you can actually take that, and if you pay some money, you get some certifications and so forth. And they actually have quite a bit out there computer-wise. You can get up to sometimes 9 graduate credit hours in computer science free. So if you get a chance, go out there and look at edX. Actually, let me bring it up over here. edX MicroMasters. And they're popular universities. They're not like really more or less podunk ones. Algorithms, data structures, design. Now you can take these for free. If you just want the knowledge, you can come out here and sign up for these classes and take them for free. I shouldn't say. The ones I worked with were mainly computer-based. I see they have a mixture. Cybersecurity. If you want to get a jump start, know your knowledge on this, you can go to cybersecurity here, artificial intelligence. There's one, there's robotics. Um, and the thing of it is if you sign up for this, you again can, a lot of these places will transfer it as actual graduate credit. And then you get a good start on your master's. Now, I'm looking at this for a different reason. Um, eventually, they'll probably ask me to take some master's level classes in computer science. I don't have a master's in computer science. They'll probably ask me to take it. So I'm thinking I go out here, I can pay maybe $500 or $600 for officially registering these classes, and maybe for $1,000 I can get enough credits to satisfy HLC requirements, so I can teach computer science long term. So yeah, this is good thing. I forget which. There's one college down in South America that has it out here. Have a complete degree or complete program in developing apps for your phones. So that'd be kind of cool. I could get that, get my graduate credit in computer science, but I wasn't sure if Cali would take graduate credit from South America. So I may ask him before I do that, but that was kind of something that caught my attention. Anyway, I use the sub and super in that markup language that we use there. It's a little bit different. It wasn't CSS, it wasn't HTML. It was more math/computer science based. Now, combining all text formatting into a single style. Text and font styles can be combined using the following shorthand font property. You got font, you put your style, space, variant, space, weight, then size, height, and then family. So you separate them with spaces. And they see the style is a font style, variant is a font variant, and so forth. This shows you an example. We got background color, color white, color this. And then down in the font, it has normal, space, small cap, space, bold, space, 0.9 EM/3 EM, space, quicksand, space, Verdana, space, or no, eyes are getting off. Quicksand, comma, Verdana, comma, Geneva, comma, sans serif. So it displays text in either quicksand, Verdana, Geneva, or a default sans serif font. Why did they put 4 there? Why not just 1? Have everybody display it in quicksand. What if they don't have quicksand? They don't have quicksand, then it'll go to Verdana. If I'm saying that right. If they don't have Verdana, it'll go to Geneva. If they don't have Geneva, it just generically throw it into any sans serif font. So you've already tested your web page, and it looks good in these 3 fonts. And if it doesn't look good in those 3, they don't have or if they don't have those 3, then just by default throw it into whatever. Does that make sense? Formatting list, list marker. It's a default browser style symbol displayed before each list item for unordered and ordered lists. Change the type of list marker to prevent any display of a list marker. Use list-style-type, colon, and whatever type. Here's the types we have. Disk, circle, square, decimal, so forth. You remember that example I showed the other day? I think it was in this class, where I did the list, and it had 1, 2, and then I did an embedded one inside of it. And it had 1 also and 2. Sort of. Let me see if I can show you an example. Got our HTML, got our body, we got a ordered list, we got an end ordered list, we got an end body, we got an end HTML. Within here, I have some lines. And I'll go ahead and do this, the standard there, break, ending that appropriately. Okay, I'm gonna save that, and this documents is fine, and I'll call it testing.html. I'm doing all for save as type. There it is. See how our first ordered list was 1 and 2, and then our next ordered list was 1. Does that look kind of weird? Does, doesn't it? Usually, if you have another list that's embedded in this, what should these go by? Yeah, bullets, A's, B's, C's, Roman numerals, I, so forth. So what they're talking about here is that you can specify the list type. So it gives you a little bit more control. So you could do A, B, C, D in lowercase, uppercase A, uppercase B, or whatever. I don't think I've ever seen lower Greek and upper Greek. That'd be weird. I suppose it's not weird if you're over in Greece, but you always have to understand is they don't design things just for the United States, do they? So using images for list markers. I have never done this. Customized graphic image for the list marker can be supplied by the user. URL is the URL of a graphic file. So if you didn't like that list, you wanted to have a little smiley face next to each bulleted item. You create the smiley face yourself. Geez, that might be a good project, wouldn't it? I have to think about that. Create your own image for that. And then this is how you do it. This is specifically going to the article, and then we got our about TSS. You got your beginning curly bracket, closing curly bracket, list style image, URL, and then whatever your file name is. Now this is assuming this is in the same directory as where your HTML file is, or your CSS, depending on where you put it. Oh, that is pretty cool. So here's an example. You see they created their own image so they could use that as bullets. Is that ADA compliant? I don't know. Some of the things that you can do in HTML and CSS aren't necessarily what you should do if you have to worry about compliance. Especially in education, but even businesses have to think about that. Can a business just turn away somebody because they don't like them? Depends on the business. You come in, you just look like trouble to me, and I say, you need to go away. But there's got to be a reason, though, right? Like they've caused trouble in the past. They look intoxicated. Maybe they don't have any clothes on. There's got to be a reason you give them. If you just turn away a customer because you don't like them, then you get to the point. Well, is it racially based? Is it based upon gender? You don't like women. You don't like men. And so it opens up so many other areas. So you think about that from a website. Can you just turn away and say, I don't care about blind people. I'll make everything an image. There's no text on it at all. So if a blind person goes to there, there's nothing for them to do with a screen reader. It says image 1, image 2, image 3. Yeah, there's lawsuits about all that going on. Wichita State got in a lawsuit because they were not compliant. They had somebody that had visual problems. And that means especially a lot to me because my eyes are getting worse. So I see double a lot of the day. And I went to the eye doctor, and he says either you can pay me $6,500, fix it over a year's time doing vision therapy, which I'm probably not going to do. I know that. I'm not going to go home and do an hour of weird things with vision therapy each night. Or you can live with it seeing double sometimes. So I may just live with seeing double. So yeah, ADA compliance may be important depending upon what business you're going into, like you said. There was that couple with the two guys. I think it was two guys, maybe two girls. I don't know. They were wanting to get married, and there was that lawsuit, and it kind of went a weird direction there. But again, if you could base whether you serve somebody based on whether you like them or not, well, you see two guys come in for their wedding, you can just say, well, I don't like you, and go away. It has nothing to do with you being two guys. Yeah, you have to be careful on that. I worked at a motel when my wife lost her job at the hospital. She was recovering from knee surgery, and I was teaching, and I was working there on weekends doing night audit, third shift. You get a lot of weird people, and like you say, you get drunk people coming in, you get high people coming in, and the owner told me. She said that if somebody comes in and they look like trouble, she said don't get them a room. And but I didn't tell them the reason why. I'd say, well, we're filled up. Now here, oftentimes the motel would be almost empty. So here's somebody that's drunk or high coming in, and they see there's no cars in the parking lot. And they're coming in, and it's like, oh, we don't have any rooms, we're booked solid. And it's like they leave at that point. Of course, they're so high that or drunk that they don't realize there's no cars in the parking lot. You got rooms. But yeah, you couldn't just tell them, no, we can't serve you. Let's see. CSS treats each list item as a block level element placed within a virtual box, which a list marker is placed outside of the list text. So again, that it's kind of like in its own cell, and then you have your text. Change the default behavior. Use list style position, where position is either outside or inside. And they give you examples here. Here's where that bullet is outside, and here is where it's inside with your text. So you have to decide which style you like. Block level elements follow the structure of the box model. Contents in a box model are enclosed within the following series of concentric boxes. Content of the element itself, the padding space, extends from the element's content to a border. This is what it's referring to. Border surrounding the padding space. The margin, padding. So this lists all of the different items here. So this is what you can control with those. You can set the padding space. I'm going to go through this fairly fast because I know you're not going to remember all this and so forth. But just remember the general idea of what you can do. Let's see, setting the padding space there. Padding left. By the way, you're in a GUI. That's where you're designing this. And it's going to build the CSS for you. Not as a separate file, but within HTML. How does this get set? Are you going to the HTML, doing it by hand? You're using your mouse. You're grabbing this. It's becoming a double arrow. You click and hold down, and you move it over. By you moving it over, it's changing that setting for you. So occasionally those packages get screwed up. Our department secretary, before they called them admins, she used to maintain the website for sports and for the natural science. And she used a package where she had to design the screen and everything. And occasionally she just couldn't get it to work. And I remember one time she asked me to come over and help her figure out how to do it. She knew computers. I went over there. I could not figure out. I could not grab it with a mouse and move it or anything. What I had to do is I had to go into HTML and manually add the HTML to get the package for it to appear. It was frustrating because I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to click and move. So. Okay, this talks about it. You can set the margin and border spaces, and you got margin and border width. Let's see, setting the size of the top margin. You see they're using margin top. This is an actual example. Selects the list items belong to the new group class found within the unordered navigation list. Here's using pseudo classes and pseudo elements. Classifies an element based on its current status, position, or use in the document. Structural pseudo class classifies an element based on its location within the structure of the HTML document. See if they give an example. Here's some structural pseudo classes. You got your root, top element, and document hierarchy, the HTML element. There's a model for how everything descends. You got things based upon windows, and then on windows we got different types of windows. So that's what it's talking about with the hierarchy. That's going to mean a lot more when we get to the JavaScript. You have to understand somewhat that hierarchy, how it works in order to program correctly. Element with no content, element with no siblings, first child of the parent element, last child, so forth. I might have to read those to you. Now here you got your list item again, and the first of the type. So it's going to pull out the first LI, first list item. And based upon that, then it's going to change the image, looks like. List style image, whatever that URL is. Then here's a second one, the LI. And you see it says inth of type 2. It says select the second list item. So this selects the second LI that you have. And then based upon that, it makes it a bike icon. And then our last one, I was going to say a third one, but it looks like they skipped 3 and go to the last one. They make it a swim icon. So what's this doing? Put in an image. How many images? 3 separate ones. So instead of the standard bullets, it's putting in its own image for each bullet. Now you might say, well, I can accomplish that with tables. So I'll put a table, I'll have a table here, I have a table here, I can put the image here, put the text right here, and have it going down like that. It doesn't work as slick as you want. And what they actually told us at the last meeting for the ADA compliance, they said don't use tables. So in our syllabi that we created, the syllabus for the course, we weren't supposed to use tables at all. I could not get Word to do what I wanted, and I didn't want to modify the HTML because I was saving it as PDF. So I used tables. I cheated. I couldn't figure out how to do it. They trained us. They told us how to do it in Word. They said use your tab, and I was doing my tab. It wasn't doing anything. It's like, oh, this is crazy. So my syllabus is almost ADA compliant. The table is the only thing I couldn't figure out how to do. So again, if you're wanting to provide some kind of compliance, you may need to use features like this. Dynamic pseudoclass, type of pseudoclass, which a class can change state based on the actions of the user. So this may depend upon whether they've visited before. Sometimes the browser takes care of that. Have you ever noticed that when you click something, the link changes colors? So browser is controlling that. I don't think they programmed CSS in there to handle that. Let's see. Pseudo element object exists only in the rendered page. Pseudo elements can be selected using the following CSS selector. You can select the first letter of the element text, first line, content before, content after. Why would this be important? Hi. H1. What is this right here? It's a header 1, right? Yeah, so it's a header 1. How about what is this? Everything's a body though. It's nothing, is it? I haven't specified it as an H1. I haven't specified it as H2. It's actually nothing. So sometimes when you're wanting, when you got nothing, that's where this comes in. So if you want to apply a style sheet just to like one part of your code, or maybe it's you want to actually apply it throughout your document, so you won't put it up at the top, you can use something like this. Let's see. Generate in contact with CSS. Sets content. Okay. Attribute values. Quotation marks. You got your open quote, close quote. Those look familiar? I don't know if that's BCD or not. Probably not. But those are the character codes for double quote and double curly quotes, whatever that is. Oh, I know what that is. In programming, it causes you headaches because you select code and you paste it in your notepad thinking you're going to open up a web page, and there are different double quotes. There's one of them where it's at an angle, and it's one of them where it's straight up and down. And so if you copy it into an editor, sometimes you have to change that before it'll run. Doesn't show the result here, but I'm guessing those codes are either BCD or some kind of weird code that it's based on. Couldn't tell you. Well, we're done with that material right there. I want to go back to W3 School. W3C School. And if you want to go to this on your computer, I would recommend using this for I'm going to give you 2 assignments here, and you'll have the rest of the time to work on it. You're welcome to work together. I encourage you. That's the idea, is for you to collaborate. And once you get here, then you go to Learn CSS. And this gives you lots of different examples that you can look at. And if I don't remember which one I went to the other day. Go to colors here, background color. Yeah, that's the one I was in. Try it yourself. Even if you want to use Notepad to do this, this is an excellent way to get your setup of what it's supposed to look like. So you see here, this is one where we got our style embedded within the tag. Now there was also the other one where we had it at the very top. Remember where you had you had your head slash head, then you had your style slash style, like that. So, and I'll show you where that's located at. But this then changes that color. Now I'm going to have you upload the actual HTML file. After you get done with this, you want to paste it over into Notepad and save it as HTML, and you'll upload that. Now let me show you where the general one was. I think it was under introduction. Maybe not. That doesn't look right. How to. Here it is. In the CSS how-to, actually the CSS how-to is probably what you can use for all of these, is where you see how they embed the style at the top. And when they do this, this applies to every H1 in your document. Now I want you to create two web pages. Let me go ahead and type this out. So you'll have two HTML files, and I'll put two drop boxes out there. And on the first web page, you see right here we got our internal style sheet, and that's where your style is up at the top. I want you to use internal style sheets and have three changes you're making. Like how many changes they have here? And by the way, don't use what they have here. The idea is for you to come up with something different. They're having one here where they're changing the background color, aren't they? Of what? The body. And then they have one they're changing here for the header for H1. So I want you to have another one besides this. Like you could choose body if you wanted, H1. Another very easy one choose would be what? H2. Yeah, that's, it's like, oh, I don't know what to change. Well, change H2, change H3, change up to H6, so it's not hard to pick which one. Now, so you're going to have three changes, three different HTML tags, and body can be one of them. The second web page, this is where it's going to be an inline. Remember, the inline style is where you have it embedded right within the tag, the HTML tag. So you're going to have three. This is inline style sheets, and you'll have three changes you're making. questions on that? Well, the rest of the time is for you to work on that. And while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and put the material out for assignment wise. So we're officially done with that material. I looked over the algorithms chapter, and there wasn't anything exciting. Not that CSS was exciting, mind you, but it was even less exciting than CSS. So there are exciting parts of computers, but I don't think style sheets is necessarily it. And you can work together if you want on that. Want to move closer to the next person? That's fine. I'm going to hide my screen, so if you haven't got that written down yet, take a picture of it with your phone. And I can't remember who it is now, but there was somebody at Arc City, I think, that was having trouble with their computer getting part of the software to load correctly. Okay. And I sent you an email. I think I sent you an email on that. This morning was kind of a blur. But what we'll do is if you're around sometime this weekend, I'll get on Zoom and you can share your screen and I'll see if I can figure it out so you can do your homework at home instead of having to go to the school constantly to do it.
Yeah, that'll be on Saturday. I'm like, good.
Is Saturday the day you're available?
Yeah, Saturday afternoon.
That'll work. So send me an email to remind me on that, and then what I'll do is I'll send you my phone number, and then we'll connect that way, and we'll get you fixed up. Unless you got a Chromebook, and then I probably won't be able to fix you up.
No.
Okay, but about every other computer, we'll figure out a solution for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.